The bar was loud that Friday night. Glasses clinked, laughter filled the air, and country music hummed in the background. But at the center of it all was her. A young black waitress named Maya, working quietly, moving from table to table with a warm smile, despite the exhaustion in her eyes. She carried trays heavier than most could manage, but she never complained. To the regulars, Maya was more than just a server, she was a kind soul who always remembered their names and stories. That night, though, a storm was about to break. The door slammed open, and a group of bikers walked in. Their boots echoed against the wooden floor, their leather vests patched with skulls and fire. People shifted uncomfortably in their seats. Everyone knew this crew. They were loud, reckless, and disrespectful. The leader, a tall, rough-looking man with tattoos across his arms, locked eyes on Maya. A cruel grin spread across his face. He leaned back in his chair as she approached his table. "Well, look at you," he sneered. "The pretty little waitress, serving drinks like she owns the place." Maya set the beers down without a word. She had dealt with men like this before. Ignoring them was safer. But he did not like being ignored. "Hey," he barked, grabbing her wrist. The room grew quieter. "When I talk to you, you answer." Maya's eyes flashed with fear, but she pulled her hand free gently. "Sir, I'm just here to serve drinks. Please enjoy your night." A few customers shifted nervously in their seats, ready to intervene but hesitant. Everyone knew how dangerous this gang could be. The biker leader laughed. "You think you're too good to talk to me? Maybe I'll teach you some respect." Before anyone could react, he yanked at her shirt, ripping the fabric straight down the front. Gasps filled the bar. Maya stumbled back, clutching what was left of her uniform, her face red with humiliation. But then, everything froze. The biker's grin vanished. His eyes widened, his hand still clutching the torn fabric. His buddies, rowdy a moment ago, fell silent. Even the jukebox seemed to fade into nothing. Because what he revealed was not weakness. Across Maya's chest was a tattoo, a military insignia inked in bold black, the mark of a combat unit. Hanging on a chain around her neck was a dog tag, gleaming under the dim bar lights. The entire room went still. The men at the counter exchanged stunned glances. One whispered, "That's a soldier's mark." The biker leader froze, his arrogance draining from his face. He had expected shame, but what he saw was strength and sacrifice. And then, Maya lifted her chin. Her voice was steady, but her eyes glistened. "You wanted to see me. Now you have." The silence was suffocating. The crowd waited. The biker's jaw tightened as his hand trembled. He looked around, suddenly aware that the entire bar was against him. And then, just as he opened his mouth to speak, the door creaked open behind them. A shadow stepped inside. The room turned to look, breath caught in their throats. The bar door groaned shut, and every eye turned toward the figure who had just walked in. A tall man in his 40s, rugged but calm, with a quiet strength in the way he carried himself. His jacket bore no patches, no symbols of a gang, but something about him demanded respect. He scanned the room quickly, his eyes landing on Maya, her shirt torn, her dog tag glinting under the lights. His jaw tightened. "Maya," he said softly. The biker leader stiffened. "You know her." The man ignored him. He stepped closer to Maya, and his voice lowered, filled with concern. "Are you all right?" Maya nodded faintly, though her hands still trembled as she clutched her torn shirt. Her voice cracked, but she forced the words out. "I am fine." The crowd whispered, recognizing something in the man's posture, in the way he stood straight, shoulders squared. He had the bearing of someone who had seen battle. The biker leader sneered, trying to shake off his unease. "Who the hell are you supposed to be? Some knight in shining armor?" The man's gaze shifted to him, steady, unflinching. "I served with the 82nd. I recognize that insignia she carries. That is no decoration. It is a mark earned in blood." The bar grew quieter. Several older patrons exchanged looks, men who had worn uniforms themselves. Respect flickered in their eyes. The biker leader laughed harshly, though his voice cracked at the edges. "So what? She's just a waitress now. Doesn't matter what she was before." Maya's voice cut through the tension. "It matters to me. And it matters to the people who never came home." Her hand closed tightly around the dog tag. Her eyes welled with tears, but she did not let them fall. A hush swept the room. The patrons leaned forward, drawn into her words. For years, Maya had never spoken of her past. But now, under the gaze of everyone, it spilled out. "My brother wore this tag. He died in Kandahar. He saved my life that night. I left the service after that, but I promised him I would keep going. Even if it meant cleaning tables, even if it meant starting over. I promised I would keep living for him." Her voice trembled, but her chin stayed high. The bar was silent. Even the biker's crew shifted uneasily in their seats. The leader's smirk faltered. For the first time, he looked uncertain. But then, pride flared in his eyes. He slammed his hand against the table. You think some sob story is going to scare me? This is my bar tonight. And no tattoo, no dog tag, and no dead brother changes that. The tension snapped. Several patrons rose from their stools, anger sparking in their eyes. One of them, an old man with silver hair and a cane, growled, "Watch your mouth, boy. You don't speak of the fallen that way." The biker looked around. The room was no longer with him. Still, he clenched his fists, unwilling to back down. He pointed at Maya. "I do not care what you were. To me, you are nothing. And if anyone here thinks otherwise." He stopped. His words caught in his throat. Because the man who had entered, the quiet veteran, was slowly unzipping his jacket. Underneath, pinned neatly to his shirt, was a row of medals. Bronze star. Purple heart. Symbols that told stories no biker could match. The crowd gasped. The biker leader's face paled. And then the veteran's voice rang out, calm but heavy with power. "You touched her once. You will not touch her again." The air felt electric. The bar held its breath, knowing a storm was about to break. The veteran's words echoed through the bar. "You touched her once. You will not touch her again." The biker leader rose slowly to his feet, his chair scraping harshly against the wooden floor. His crew shifted behind him, their bravado flickering but not gone. He cracked his knuckles and sneered. "You think a chest full of medals makes you untouchable? This is my house tonight." The veteran did not move. His calm stare was sharper than any blade. "Respect is earned, not stolen. And tonight, you earned nothing but shame." Gasps rippled through the bar. Every customer felt the weight of those words. The biker flushed red, fury twisting his face. With a roar, he lunged forward, his fist aiming straight for the veteran's jaw. But the veteran moved with lightning speed. He sidestepped, catching the biker's wrist midair, twisting it sharply. The biker howled, dropping to one knee. The crowd erupted, some cheering, others frozen in shock. "Enough," Maya shouted, her voice breaking with emotion. "No more fighting, please." But it was too late. The biker's crew leapt to their feet, rushing forward. Chairs clattered. Glasses shattered. The bar exploded into chaos. The veteran released the leader and braced himself as two bikers charged. He ducked the first punch, sending the men crashing into a table, then shoved the second back with surprising force. The old man with the cane even jabbed one in the ribs, shouting, "You'll not dishonor her here." Maya stood frozen, her hand clutching her dog tag, her heart pounding in her chest. The scene blurred around her, fists, shouts, splintering wood, but all she could hear was her brother's voice in her memory. "Keep living. Keep standing tall." The biker leader staggered back to his feet, clutching his wrist, rage blazing in his eyes. He snatched a broken bottle from the counter, its jagged edge glinting under the neon light. The crowd gasped. Someone screamed. "Put it down," the veteran barked, stepping forward. But the biker only laughed, a wild, reckless sound. "No one humiliates me in my own town." He raised the bottle high. Maya's breath caught. Every second stretched like an eternity. Then, suddenly, red and blue lights flashed through the bar's front windows. Sirens wailed in the distance, growing louder. The biker froze, the bottle still in his hand. His men stopped mid-fight, looking toward the door. The veteran did not move, his eyes locked on the leader. And then the door slammed open again. This time it was not just one figure. It was several. Uniformed officers stormed in, hands on their holsters, their presence commanding the room. Everyone stepped back, one shouted, "Hands where we can see them." The entire bar fell into stunned silence. The bikers exchanged panicked glances. The leader's hand trembled, still holding the jagged glass. And then, through the line of officers, another figure stepped forward. A tall woman in military uniform. Her eyes found Maya instantly. The bar went completely silent. "Maya," she said, her voice filled with both authority and something deeper. "What happened here?" Maya's lips parted, but no sound came. Her knees nearly buckled. Because the woman in uniform was someone she never expected to see again. The entire bar was silent. Every eye shifted between Maya, standing frozen with her torn shirt and dog tag shining, and the woman in uniform who had just walked in. Maya's lips trembled. "Captain Johnson." The officer stepped closer, her eyes softening. "It has been a long time, Sergeant Carter." Gasps swept through the crowd. Some of the bikers lowered their heads, suddenly realizing the truth. Maya had not just been a soldier, she had been a leader. The biker leader's grip tightened on the broken bottle, his pride warring with fear. But the officers were already closing in. "Drop it," Captain Johnson commanded. Her voice carried the weight of authority. For a moment, it seemed he would resist. His knuckles whitened, his chest heaving. Then, with a frustrated growl, he flung the bottle across the floor. It shattered harmlessly against the wall. The officers rushed forward, pinning him and his men in seconds. The bar erupted in cheers as handcuffs clicked shut. The once feared biker gang was marched toward the door, their heads bowed in shame. Maya stood in the middle of it all, shaking, her dog tag clutched so tightly it cut into her palm. Captain Johnson approached and laid a gentle hand on her shoulder. "You carried your promise well, Maya. Your brother would be proud." Maya's eyes filled with tears, but this time, she did not fight them. They streamed down her cheeks, carrying years of silence and hidden pain. "I tried to live for him," she whispered. "Even when it hurt. Even when no one knew." The captain nodded, her own eyes glistening. "That is what courage looks like. Not the noise, not the threats. Just the quiet strength to keep going." The veteran who had defended her earlier stepped closer. He bowed his head respectfully. "You did not need saving tonight. You reminded all of us what real honor means." The bar patrons erupted in applause, their cheers echoing through the walls. Strangers reached out to pat her shoulder, to thank her, to honor her. The old man with the cane raised his glass high. "To the fallen, and to the ones who carry their light." Glasses clinked, voices shouted, and for the first time in years, Maya felt the warmth of true belonging. She stood tall, no longer just the quiet waitress in the corner. She was a survivor, a soldier, a sister keeping her brother's legacy alive. The biker gang had walked in to humiliate her. Instead, they had exposed a truth too powerful to shame. As the night drew on, and the last of the flashing lights faded from the window, Maya whispered a promise into her dog tag. "I kept living, Marcus. And I will keep living still." The bar fell quiet once more, but the silence was no longer heavy. It was filled with respect, with pride, and with a memory that would not fade. Because that night, a cruel act meant to break her revealed something unshakable. And everyone who witnessed it left with the same lesson carved into their hearts. Real strength is not in tearing others down. It is in standing tall, even when the world tries to tear you apart.